Hey everybody, welcome back to In Bed with a Millennial. I'm the Millennial Javeda Bay, and this is my bed, and it is Anal August. And if you're new here, you're probably like, okay, what? If you've been here for a minute, you already know Anal August is one of my favorite months of the year. As a sex educator, as a kinky person, like it's just an all-around good time because it's a month dedicated to all things anal sex. And so if you've ever been like, you know what? Sounds interesting. I don't know if I'm ready to do it yet, or like I want to do it, but I don't know enough. You're in the right place because all this month I'm talking about all things anal. If it has to do with backdoor play, if it has to do with the bootay, I'm talking about it. So if that's what you're looking for, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel because that's what you're about to get all month long. But today specifically, we gotta start at the bottom and build our way up. So today we're gonna be talking about the anatomy of the anus, because if you don't understand the anatomy, you're not gonna understand what you're doing, how you're playing, how you're enjoying it. So let's get into it. Okay, Javay, what do we need to know about the anatomy of the anus? I am so glad that you asked because it's a lot. You need to know a lot about the anatomy of the anus so that way you can engage in anal play safely, comfortably, and not have to worry about, and not have stress, worry, or anxiety about, oh my gosh, am I gonna break something? So, what's the anatomy of the anus look like? This. So when it comes to the anus, obviously we know what butt cheeks are. We've seen a booty, we understand. But if you get a little deeper, spread things, dive on in, there's a little bit more that you need to know because that's how you're gonna have the best anal play possible. And there are two major parts of the anus that everyone needs to know about for safe, comfortable, pleasurable anal play. And that is gonna be the anal sphincters. And these are two separate muscles that are basically bodyguards. That's why I like to refer to them as. They are bodyguards and they are on duty. They're just like, we're not letting nobody in that's not supposed to be in, but we let people out. Their job is to keep people in until they're ready to exit, AKA the poo-poo. And that's what they do. And for you to have enjoyable anal play, you got to work with them bouncers. You got to actually work with those sphincters to get them relaxed. They got to take a night off. They got to take like a little stretch of time off, because if they don't, this is when anal play is not fun. So when people are like, oh my God, I had anal sex, it hurt so bad, it was not comfortable, like I didn't enjoy it, it's usually because they skipped over an important step called anal training, which we're going to talk about in a couple more episodes. But the anal sphincters are those muscles that take anal sex from being uncomfortable and painful to being super comfortable and pleasurable. So there's two different muscles, the external and internal sphincter. They just have to be relaxed and actually not like tense and on duty. And then things are a little bit more comfortable. You can actually have penetration that feels good. But those are the sphincters, and here's where they are. So you've got the external right here and the internal right there. So they're really close to each other, but those two muscles are extremely important to know. Obviously, when you first look at an asshole, the first thing you're gonna see is the actual rim of the anus, which is where rimming comes from because you're stimulating the rim of the anus. So that's where like the little asterisks of the booty hole is. So you've got the rim of the anus, you go inside and you have the external and internal sphincter. As you make your way through, you're gonna actually leave the anus to go into the rectal canal, and like as you keep going up, it's going to get to the intestines. All this is important because the anus is connected to a part of your body, an organ in your body that continues on for a long amount of time. That's why people are able to use longer toys for anal play, because there's more space for them to go into. It's literally going into your guts. Like if someone's actually like pounding your guts, it's usually happening through anal play because the anus allows you to reach into these other areas through the intestines. The last important piece of anus anatomy, anal anatomy, however you want to refer to it, is actually going to be the prostate, which is essentially known as like the male G-spot, also AKA the P-spot. And this is actually a walnut-sized organ that you can see right here. This is actually an organ that is an internal structure, but it can be stimulated internally or externally. But it's important to recognize when it comes to the anatomy of the anus because it is a pleasure center. Stimulating it can be extremely pleasurable for folks that have one. So understanding that part of the anatomy is also extremely important. But those are the big pieces of the anus. You've got the rim of the anus, the external and internal sphincter. You've got the canals, so going from the anus to the rectal canal, and then making your way to the intestines. And then you've also got the prostate. And when you're trying to stimulate it externally, you're actually going to be paying attention to a few different spaces. So you obviously have the anus, the butthole, and then depending on the body you're with, you're either going to have the scrotum or the balls or the vulva. And in between the anus and the other genitals is a spot that a lot of people refer to in a lot of different ways. You've got the gooch, you've got the taint. It is called the perineum. And this is a super sensitive space between those two areas that can also be stimulated during anal stimulation and provide pleasure. So those are all the pieces. This is the anus. This is the anus with a prostate. This is the anus without a prostate. But this is the anus, and understanding the anatomy of it, understanding that the sphincters are muscles that have to be relaxed for things to be pleasurable, is how we change the game in anal sex being pleasurable for everyone participating in it. So now that you understand a little bit more about the actual anatomy, you can better conceptualize what anal play looks like, includes how to make it a little bit more comfortable. Another important piece about the anus to know also is that it is not self-lubricating. So the vagina produces its own lubrication in different varying amounts depending on body, time of cycle, all those pieces. But the anus doesn't have that. The anus does not produce its own natural lubricant. So the real key to pleasurable anal play is always going to be using lube. So yeah, that's the quick and dirty rundown on the anatomy of the anus. And that's just a start. We're just getting started. We've got a whole month ahead of us where I'm going to dive into everything that you need to know if you want to actually have good, pleasurable anal play. So the rest of this month, we're going to be talking about anal training, how to actually get your body prepared for penetrative anal play. We're going to be talking about analingus, or tossing the salad, aka rimming, the art of oral sex in the anus. And lastly, we're going to dive into actually how to have good penetrative anal sex, because that is extremely important. And I would never want to send you off and be like, yeah, go participate in this month without really having the know-how of ways to engage in it comfortably. So if you want any of that, all of that, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because duh. And definitely make sure you follow me on all the different social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X. I will be sharing so much content across all these platforms. And definitely make sure you are following me on my website, subscribe to my email newsletter, because so much good stuff comes out through it. And I just share so much more information on my website, and you don't want to miss that. But yeah, until next time, I'ma see you later. Deuces.